Awesome.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
All right, I'm going to look at my phone right now. It's 6:30. No, I shouldn't say what time it is because I want to keep the illusion like Hollywood that, we're in real time by the time we air. But Dr. Shred, thank you for joining us.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
Now, I'm wondering, am I getting your name wrong? Because I see it says she shreds, but I think you're
Oh,
Dr.
yeah.
Shred.
No. So I'll give you kind of the backstory on Dr. Shred here in a second. But no, this is one of my favorite shirts. So She Shreds, they're a digital print, and then they also have like of course, well, they used to have physical copies. I don't know if they do anymore, but they're like a media outlet, kind of smaller, but they're really gaining some traction in the U.S. and it focuses purely on all things women musicians. So
Oh,
I
that's
I like
great.
to I like to support that, and of course the shirt is very fitting. So yeah, so that's I like to give a shout out to them anytime I can. Yeah, no, Dr. Shred. So that nickname, buddy of mine, he is, gosh, he plays drums in the band that I'm currently in, and we've played music together. Gosh, over a decade. We've been in some doozies of some bands, and kind of had a really cool musical journey. But we were playing in this '80s cover band, and of course,
Okay.
things like spandex and the works and everything. And I don't know how he came up with it, but he started calling me Dr. Shred. And so, like '80s, you have like cool stage personas and
Yeah.
whatever. And so I kind of just rolled with it. And my name's kind of obscure, so people don't necessarily remember that, but like they remember Dr. Shred. So I remember I was walking. I used to work in a corporate office setting, and
Okay.
I was walking, and all of a sudden I hear somebody yell, "Dr. Shred!" And I turn around, and it was we had lunches catered in on Fridays, and it was one of the catering guys, and he had recognized me from a gig that he saw the weekend before. So I was like, all right, this has got to stick.
Yeah, I like that. That's easier to remember than Erin Detherage. Or is it
Yeah.
Death? And I was actually is it Detheridge or Deathridge?
I I usually just say Deathridge. I've heard it
Yeah.
pronounced several ways. The FedEx guy loves to say Death Rage because it's more metal. So
Oh,
I'll take
I
any
like
of
that. Oh, that's
it.
good. But Dr. Shred sticks. There was a guy, he's not with us anymore, in Trenton, at the farmer's market, and he was Dr. Ivan the Watch Doctor. And if you needed any kind of clock or watch fixed, you would go to he wasn't a doctor, but it was, I thought it was such a great, endearing kind of marketing thing. I became friendly with his son years later, but he was a neat guy. And I remember I had some weird old clock. I brought it in, he fixed it for me. But there was a ring to it, Dr. Ivan, the watch doctor. So Dr. Shred, I think that works fantastic too.
Awesome.
And through the School of Hard Knocks, you do have your doctorate in shredding.
Exactly. Exactly. I went to
Right.
shred school.
That's right. That's right. And you have one of those behind you. There's a diploma back there. That is your shredding diploma, your
Yeah, yeah,
master's in shredding.
exactly.
Yeah. So why don't we do this? Let's go back a little bit in time.
Okay.
When did you first pick up a guitar?
So I was kind of a late bloomer. I was a June. It was kind of towards the middle of my junior year in high school. I grew up in
Okay.
an extremely small town in Oklahoma, and I will forever be thankful to our humanities teacher. It was one of those situations where you've got coach slash, okay, you've got to teach this class and this class and this class, and so he wanted to kind of
Right.
put a really cool spin on a humanities class, and he's like he loved playing guitar, and of course
Okay.
it was him. And you've always got one student in the class that just is killer. I remember we're all trying to learn chords and things like that, and he and this other kid are off in the corner, riffing back and forth Metallica. So it's like,
Okay.
all right, we've got a lot of work to do. But but yeah, so he started up this humanities class, and I was like, I've always loved music, of course, and so I bought a cheap acoustic from it was a Hastings store, and
Okay.
really got into it, and kind of just dabbled a little bit, learned quite a bit from the class, and then around that age, trying to kind of figure out what to do with my life. And I currently live in Northwest Arkansas, and located here, was going to school. I was still playing a little bit, but not a whole lot. And I actually heard a radio ad for a guitar center that was opening. This is about
Okay.
2007.
Okay.
And so I was like, man, that sounds like a cool place to work. I'd never been in one, but I was like, that sounds pretty cool. So I went to the interview, and got a call back a couple weeks later, and I actually started there because at that time, I mean, I played an acoustic guitar, and so I didn't know, the store manager at the time was asking me questions about, do you know the difference between a single coil and a humbucker, and asking me differences in effects pedals, and so I was just kind of like, no, but I guess my
There was
personality.
your education beginning, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so anyway, the operations side guy, he was operations manager at the time, and he liked me, and so my first job there was, I don't know if you remember, but they used to stamp receipts at the door, and
No, I
so
don't remember that.
yeah, so it was kind of like a what Best Buy used to do. But yeah, I would check receipts, stamp them, and then I would count. They had like a little clicker, and so I would count
Oh,
individual
yeah.
people that
Right,
would come
right.
in.
Because they want to know those kind of things in a store like that. They keep all sorts
Absolutely.
of statistics. So, a couple of observations. I don't hear an Okie or an Arkansas accent in you.
Yeah, uh I've heard that a lot, actually. So
Yeah, you
I'll
could be like a newscaster you have no accent.
I give that kind of mysterious vibe.
Yeah,
So
no,
yes.
I have good friends from both states, and they both have pretty thick accents. My friend from Arkansas, that he's got a. I have a buddy in Little Rock, and
Oh, no
just
kidding.
yeah, Dave Couch. I'll throw his name in. He's a guitar player too. He's a lawyer guitar player. Well, he's got a real thick accent, like he's like deeper than that, you know. And which is why juries love him when he would try cases, because he's got that wonderful, endearing Southern gentleman accent.
Oh man.
Um,
There
yeah.
are there I will say there are times I wish I did. So I play in a primarily country band, and it's
Okay.
like, man, like I kind of wish I had that to go with it, but for whatever reason I never picked that up.
You could build it if you want. It probably wouldn't be that hard. Now,
No,
I've also,
there's plenty to listen to around me.
and are you anywhere near Fayetteville?
That's exactly where I am. Yeah.
I love Fayetteville.
It's a
Uh,
great town.
it is the music scene, the food scene there.
Yep.
Yeah, I did a weekend there with the same gang of people, and fell in love with the town.
Oh,
Really
no
nice.
kidding.
Yeah, they were. We just went from, and I don't mean this in a drunken way. Not that I haven't been, but that occasion, no. But we went bar hopping,
Hmm.
and just every place seemed to have more character than the last. Food, music, the design. It was such a good foot friendly town.
Yeah.
I,
It's
and it
uh it,
seemed, yeah,
it's really cool. What's great about it is, so I've been here, whenever I first moved here, it was like a culture shock because there's actually live music here, and there's live music
yeah,
all the time. And so that was kind of an inspiration to really start taking it seriously too. But yeah, with all of the major companies, because Northwest Arkansas is home to like Walmart
yep,
and
yep.
Tyson Foods, and so it's really cool to see the area continue to grow, and there's a lot of entertainment opportunities that are opening up because of that too, which is really cool.
Yeah, I love the just the feel of it, the sidewalks, and nice old sort of factory buildings that they turned into music venues.
Yep.
No, super, super cool. Now, you know what I love? I was chatting with Scott just a couple hours ago. So we started this show in the spring of 2019. It's almost exactly 3 years ago. Scott was our very first guest. He's my old friend from high school. You and I were talking before we started taping. I've known
Mhm.
Scott since probably around 1979, which is just crazy to wrap your head around that. But literally, the very first episode, we were talking about the phenomena that was and is Guitar Center. You know,
Yep.
because there's a time going back to my childhood, Bernadine's Music in Mattawa, New Jersey, little tiny shop, and it was just this narrow, sort of like the places you see in Fayetteville, like a narrow storefront that kind of goes back. And I
Hmm.
remember when Guitar Center took over, there were a few big stores in New York. We had Red Bank Music, which is sort of Bruce Springsteen land. But in terms of other than a few large places in New York, and even Sam Ash was regional, but
Yep.
nothing like Guitar Center. Uh, what were your impressions of it when you first went there?
Oh man. So it was a really cool experience for me. It's because we sorry, my cat wanted to make an appearance.
I
Um,
like that. My guy's locked behind a door, and he might end up making an appearance. Yeah,
he's usually shy, so hopefully that's the only time he hops up here.
that's
No,
fine.
it totally blew me away because any store music store I'd ever been in, it was kind of small, cozy, very mom and pop.
Yeah,
And I remember because I helped to assemble the store and put it together, and I remember just everything fascinated me, from even like they've got like the guitar wall that they hang everything on. It looks like it's just
yeah,
a wall of amps behind it, and then to just see that many guitars just hanging up, and all the different kinds. And yeah, it just totally blew me away. And of course, working there, anytime I'd gone to other cities after that, I always try and pop into a Guitar Center and just kind of see what it looks like, because we're still a super small. I say we are. I recently left Guitar Center, but we the store here in Fayetteville is relatively small compared to some of the bigger ones. So I always like to go in
right,
there and see the kind of some of the more expensive um pieces of equipment that they've got. And
right.
they all do differ in their own way.
Now, it's funny. The old fogey in me has this sort of instinctive, guttural dislike of a big store like that, but I don't think it's really fair because they really do put in one place every kind of instrument that's nicely priced. And I'm going to guess, and I'll ask you in a second, that they probably do a nice job of building a local community of musicians, maybe
Hmm.
even in a way that a smaller, mom and popish kind of store isn't able to do.
So honestly, I've seen both sides of the fence. So
Right.
um, the the store here, it's funny. So there was a smaller chain. I i say chain. They had three stores kind of in the Northwest Arkansas area before Guitar Center
Right.
moved in. It was called Ben Jack's Music. And so
Okay.
when Guitar Center moved in, um, ultimately they eventually ended up closing all their facilities. But what's funny is the majority of those guys, some of those guys ended up coming over to Guitar Center. So in
Right.
essence, they brought the clientele that were pretty loyal to them to come over. But yeah, I mean, you've got your regulars that come in, and they're fantastic. And then of course you see a lot of backlash on, especially on social media, which, I mean,
Right.
shocker, you see backlash on anything these days on social media. But yeah,
Yeah.
some people just don't like it, in the sense that it's ultimately just like another big corporation, and so they're going to take their money to another local music store. So yeah, I've seen it split down the line 50-50.
Now, what are some of the things that were really good that you would get personally from working there? In other
Yeah.
words, the nice experiences that you would get.
Um, I think so. I worked at Guitar Center twice. I worked there when we opened. I was there about 3.5 years, and then I left, and then I came back. And I almost made it 4 years this past time. But whenever I came back, I started out this last time as the lessons lead, lessons manager, because they just put lessons rooms in the store here in Fayetteville, and honestly, I think that was probably the most that I took away from it was they would do like these showcases every 3 months, and so
Okay.
I would I would take the initiative and I'd go out to local venues. And it helps that I'm a musician too, so I would hit up venues that I've played that I had a good rapport with, and they're venues that serve food and beverages, and so it's kind of a, hey, you let us play here, I guarantee you we're gonna have a crowd, they're gonna come spend money, and so it was really cool how all of that worked out. But honestly, I think that that was probably my favorite, seeing these new musicians, and they were all ages, but come
Right.
in and buying their first instrument and then actually getting an opportunity at whatever age to perform in front of people. There's so many people that start an instrument and play it, and it's okay. I mean, if they prefer like just playing in the comfort of their own home, or but this kind of challenged them to get out and actually play and perform in front of people, and you could just see some of them, they just caught the bug, and so
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
they're set for life in that.
Sort of a more organic version of School of Rock because they're really doing it and it's a little less manufactured around them, right?
Exactly. That's so School of Rock. We do have a couple of School of. They were, as far as lessons go, they were a direct competitor, and they run
Right.
a really cool program too. But what was so interesting and unique about Guitar Center's program is these students got to, because from what I've seen, School of Rock kind of has more of a set curriculum, like, hey, we've got a David Bowie theme, or we've got a
Right. Yeah.
classic rock theme. These students could ultimately pick out what they wanted to do, what they wanted to work on, and the fact that it's all in-house, so they've got that journey, with their instructor, and then they get to come out and talk to some of the salespeople who are going to be really invested in getting them what they actually need and kind of what they want, and kind of keep that drive going.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
Now, so you're a musician, and we haven't even touched that yet, but you're a good musician. Were there people at Guitar Center who would be selling guitars who weren't musicians, or would they try to limit themselves to people who actually had at least a reasonable amount of street cred in the world of guitar?
So that's funny. That's and I see that a lot, that people complain about, going into a Guitar Center and people not being as knowledgeable as possible. I know in the first go around that I worked there, I honestly like this, but I'm kind of nerdy in that sense. They had like these certification programs. So if you wanted to be able to sell out of, like, you had your home focus, like I was in like guitars and accessories. If you wanted to
Okay.
sell out of another department, you had to go through this, like, these multiple layered certifications in like pro audio and drums. And I thought that was super
That
helpful.
sounds great. Yeah.
However, that's not the case anymore. And from a business standpoint, I understand why, especially with, I think with COVID too, it's hard finding for any company to find workers. Whenever I last left, I ended up being the store manager at the Guitar Center here. And so I kind of had that firsthand in hiring people. What's cool is I tried to kind of spread around the employees. So we had so that way you don't have just 10 people that just know guitars, and then, oh well, I'll try and help you out with a pro audio system, or
Right.
um
Yeah.
I would try and hire, like, okay, I know that we're good on guitars. We need somebody. So then I would say, okay, we're kind of short on percussion and drums. And so whenever I was interviewing people, I would try and I got lucky too. Same with pro audio. And then in doing the scheduling, you try to make sure that you always had coverage, at least somebody who was knowledgeable in each department. But yeah, like I had a couple of employees there that didn't necessarily play an instrument. Like they weren't drums, they weren't guitar, they didn't sing, but they were exceptional in like music production and DJing. So that's how I ran my store anyway, is just trying to have a have someone, because that way, if somebody had a question, we could go to our lifeline and say, okay, this person's they're at lunch or they're doing something else, but at least I know that I've got somebody that I can rely on to try and get that information too.
No, that's good stuff. And I do like the concept, that you liked in the beginning, of getting people who really knew their stuff. And yeah, from a business point of view, there's limits to what you can accomplish in
Mhm.
terms of getting people from a certain community. Here's one of the things that is literally one of the inspirations for Guitar Tales, is that when Scott and I were talking about creating this show 3 years ago, 3.5 years ago, when we started talking about it, what's amazing to me is that Guitar Center is at oftentimes almost as large, not quite as large as a Walmart, but it's gigantic. And it's amazing how many large big box stores can be successful. And it tells us on some level how many folks out there are playing guitar, and maybe to a lesser degree, four-string bass and drums and keyboard and all that. Guitar, obviously, they picked that name for a reason, even though they also sell other instruments.
Mhm.
Would it amaze you how many people at whatever level, whether they're at your level or just a beginner or someone who will end up flirting with guitar for 6 months and stopping, how many there were?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I thought, especially the last couple of years, any type of specialty retail, I really thought I thought it was gonna struggle. Um,
Yeah.
but it was quite the opposite. And you see a lot of music now. I'm gonna sound really old, but you see a lot of music now that's like super overproduced. And
Hmm.
you'll read in like Premier Guitar or some of the guitar magazines, like, is rock dead? And, and you're not seeing a lot of people playing instruments that are on kind of a mainstream level. But I never saw it stop. I mean, in fact, people are buying instruments now more than ever, and it's really cool to see.
Yeah, I agree. And it really just amazes me. And I guess if you have people who are really into guitar, I mean, there's two behind me and there's three or four more in my house. And there were times when I owned more than that. So if you really like guitar, you buy a lot. And then there's the folks who will flirt with it because maybe their parents, or one of my guitars, my ex father-in-law bought for my son, and now it's mine because he never played. So there's those folks.
Yep.
But there is something very, dare I say, sexy about the guitar, that a lot of people will flirt with it, even if they don't take it beyond a lesson or two, or literally just buying one and never touching it or taking lessons.
Yeah. Yeah, that's yeah. And we there's always like different types. There's obviously those people who come in, um and people just automatically assume they're going to pick this thing up and just be amazing at it. And
Right,
I
right.
mean, as you know, that's not the case. And that's I think that's something that, like, the lessons program, like if they take lessons in house, that kind of helps to bridge the gap.
Yeah.
I will always, whether it's through a store or somewhere else, I will always encourage lessons, because like anything else, it's good to have another person there for accountability and things like that. So yeah, you've got those people who pick them up, and then you've got the type of people who've got more money than they know what to do with, and they'll
Right,
come
right.
in and just keep buying instruments and gear, and those are those folks always make me chuckle because it's like they come in and they can tell you like the parameters of how a pedal is designed, and want to talk about that all day, and then you never see them play an instrument. So
Yeah,
it's like,
right.
at that point it's almost more of a collection knowledge hobby, and so that always kind of makes me chuckle, but hey, to each their own.
Right, right. Now, you gave us a great segue because, one of the things we also would talk about, I will tell you that in my early years, and certainly now, I would never have the guts to play guitar in a guitar center or a music store. I'm not good. I'm just literally not. But, we were chatting, Scott and I, about the phenomena. Very often you'd have the worst guitar player, the louder they want to play in the middle of the store. I'm sure you've seen a lot of that.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Well, and what's funny is, you've heard the no stairway in guitar, and
Yeah.
we would have people come in and ask about that. And honestly, I think it's sadly almost out of the way of this generation, because you never hear people do that. Instead, the most popular songs I heard, "Sweet Child of Mine,"
Okay.
about 20% of it was correct, and
Okay.
oddly enough, Nirvana's "Come as You Are"
Really?
is making a comeback. Yeah, I don't know if that's a I don't know, but kudos to Nirvana, because I heard that probably more than any song that I can recall, and it would always catch me off guard. So I'm like, oh, that again, and then of course, I heard a lot more John Mayer than I thought I would too. But usually those guys are bringing their girlfriends in, so it makes sense.
Yeah, right, 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 right. Now, we've had all these discussions about eruption, and we've had panel discussions about, literally, we've done panel discussions with band members, should you play it live? But one of the things is, since that show, Eddie passed away, and we were wondering, has there been an uptick? Have you seen an uptick in in hearing eruption in your stores or other Van Halen
Sadly,
tunes?
no. I
Interesting.
Yeah, I wish, and shame on parents for not raising their kids playing listening to more Van Halen.
I
I'm just
know.
gonna blame it on them.
That's right. Yeah. I got, oh, I should, here, I don't know if I can get this on camera. I want to show you this. You made me think of something. I got a text from my son today. This will be pretty cool. All right, here it is. Let's see if it'll show up on the camera. So it's too much glare. He
No,
wrote,
I could see a
you,
radio.
right. Can you see what it says? Wait, let me try to tilt it. There, can you see it now?
Okay, hang on, let me see here. Oh, I cannot.
So it says, oh, yeah, oh, I'm looking at it. So here, let me do this. There we go. Try that. Can you see what it says now?
Baba O'Reilly.
Yes. So my son, who's 19, sent me a text that said, "You would be proud." He was playing Baba O'Reilly in the car.
What?
My 19-year-old. Yep. I used to
See,
play
now
the
you're
hoop for
raising them
them.
right.
I thought I failed. My son, it's funny. He's not a musician. He's a bit of an athlete, but he actually can rap quite well. He does like almost like scat,
That's awesome.
But my daughter has become a Stones fan, and like me, she loves the Beatles but prefers the Stones, and she did that on her own, and that made my day getting that.
That's so
You know,
cool.
yeah, yeah. So let me switch gears on us a little bit. Let's
Okay.
talk about you as a musician.
Okay.
So, were you a serious musician when you started at Guitar Center, or which came first?
No, like I said, I just kind of picked around a little bit, and what's cool, so obviously my first job there, just kind of, I mean, I literally stood at a desk, stamped
Yeah,
receipts. So it allowed me the opportunity to kind of go through some of those certification materials, and read up on a lot of stuff, and the employee discount did not hurt, so I kind of upgraded some
right.
of my gear. you know, when you have nicer stuff, it's a good incentive
Yes.
to use it to play. And so from there I was like, you know what, I really want to. And moving to this area, moving to Fayetteville and seeing all these bands playing out live, and I
Yep.
was like, I want to do that. Like that
Yeah,
looks
that's
so
cool.
fun to me. I want to do that. I want to play cover music. I want to write music. And so I do have to say a lot of my trajectory started with that first job at Guitar Center. So for that, I'll forever be grateful. Um, but yeah, it's I haven't really looked back from there. So I started that, and then I went into sales, and I had an outstanding store manager at that time. He was wonderful. He kind of pushed me into my first band. A gal came in and she had a flyer and she was looking for a rhythm guitar player. And he came to me, he's like, why don't you do that? And I was like, you know, just terrified. And so, you know, I just went for it, and went over there and kind of started jamming with them, and just took off from there.
Well, that's fantastic. And do you play all over town these days?
I do. Oh man, music has really given me some cool opportunities that I wouldn't have had otherwise. So like I said, I've been in all kinds of different bands. I've been in rock, classic rock, cover bands. Um, Most recently, country. Before this band that I'm in, I was playing with a gal. Her name's Mary Heather Hickman. She's moved to Nashville and she's doing her own thing. She's killing it. She's doing a great job
Oh, that's
releasing her
great.
songs. And but we actually met her here. She was a student at the University of Arkansas, and so I say we. It's me and my drummer. He is an attorney as well.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
yeah, and so um we, you know, he and I had played in several different bands, and we wanted to go the country route. And we kind of found her and started playing together. And so with her we were able to we played AT&T Stadium before the Cowboys games 3 years in a row, which was really
Wow.
cool. I'm a huge Cowboys fan, unfortunately, but maybe it'll get better.
Right.
Yeah, we got to open for like Hank Jr., um, Eli Young band. Um, I'm drawing a blank, but we got to do a lot of like cool opening gigs and stuff
That's
like that
huge.
before.
Yeah.
Yeah, before she moved to Nashville. And so um now it's basically our core band, but we found another singer. Her name's Abby Pierce, and we just we just kind of found her a few months ago, but we're already taken off. I mean, we've played a couple of gigs here. We're working on getting in, doing some recording. So yeah, it's kind of like we never skipped a beat. And she's a great songwriter. She and I get together and kind of collaborate in songwriting, which is something I've always wanted, you know, to be a part of the songwriting process. And we work really well together. So I'm really excited to see what the future of that looks like.
That's fantastic. Now, is in your current iteration of your band, is it a mix of covers and originals? Or are you all
Yes.
originals?
Yep.
Okay.
So it's because here yeah, we it's like we're looking like 2 to 3 hour sets.
Oh,
Um
wow. Yeah.
yeah,
That's a lot
so
of work.
it is a lot of work. And so we do a lot of like old and new country covers. We do some classic rock too. She does great, like with Joan Jett, and you know, everything kind of in between there. And then we sprinkle in our original material with that. And then for for fun, so anytime I've ever been in between bands, I don't do well just sitting at home. I love playing out. Playing live
Right. Yeah.
is something that I really love. So I am not a vocalist, and the world is better for it that I don't sing. And so I was like, well, I really want to play out, obviously if I'm not in a project, I was trying to figure out how I can still do that. So I'll go out and do like my own solo stuff. It's all covers. But what I do is it's all, kind of popular, everything from hip hop, rap to alternative to classic rock. But what I'll do is kind of match the pitch of the vocals with my guitar, and for whatever reason, it goes over really well, and people enjoy it, and it's something different. Nobody else around here does it. So
So
whenever
describe that for me. So you mean, will you be singing with it, meaning you're matching your pitch, or you'll have the guitar match the vocals?
so the guitar matches the vocals.
Wow. And
Yeah.
will you have a backup track with you?
Yes. So it's all, so
Okay.
think like your karaoke tracks,
Yeah.
without the vocals, but the guitar fills in for the vocals.
Oh, that's really clever. I like that.
Yeah, and it goes great like with the smaller venue, because there are a limited amount of kind of bigger venues that like a big band, and so some of the smaller venues around here where you're doing like solo duo type things, it goes over really well. And the music community, just the community in general, has been really really generous and great to me. And so I usually stay busy with that if whenever the band's not gigging.
That's fantastic. Now, when you started with rock
Hmm.
or something else. Then what was your attraction? Country and rock have the same roots, obviously, but
Hmm.
what was your attraction to move over to country?
So I grew up listening like to 90s country, which is one
Okay.
of the best generations of country in my opinion. But grew up, and then I moved here. Fayetteville is kind of low key a pretty heavy metal scene, and so that
I
kind
wouldn't
of
have thought that.
I know it's kind of crazy, but the metal scene here is awesome. Like the majority of the guys that I worked with at Guitar Center are all metalheads, and so
Really?
I would have never gone to a metal show had I not met them and gone to see their bands, and just
Right.
outstanding musicianship. Like holy cow. Um, but and then and again, like I said, I was kind of a late bloomer, so I kind of got into like the classic rock, and because my parents didn't really listen to anything aside from country and some of that older music. And so once I got introduced to that here, I was like, oh man, I got to jump out and explore all of this. This is awesome. And so started playing that, and then country just kind of became it. It's almost a melting pot. It's like you can call anything country.
Yeah, I know.
And
I know.
I
That's
know that's
yeah.
an unpopular opinion with some people, because they're going to be like, "Oh, this isn't real country," and I've heard all the
Yeah.
debates.
Well, what's
Um,
that song? That ain't country. What's that? What's that guy's name?
uh,
He's a
oh,
rocker turned country artist who now claims to be a purist.
rocker turned country. Oh man, they also I've
Is
seen
this the
so
name of
many.
the song? Is That Ain't Country?
That ain't country.
Oh, what the heck's his name?
Not Darius.
And no, not
Not
Darius Rucker.
no.
He's also a late joiner to the country scene.
Yeah,
That was a marketing thing as far as I'm concerned, but he did quite
yeah.
well with it.
No, I've seen some of these newer guys. It's so funny because you'll like kind of go back and watch some of their older stuff on YouTube, but they're like
Yeah,
super heavy rockers, and like there's like Brantley Gilbert, his
yeah.
band, like the drummer's got a mohawk and they're rocking. It's like that didn't work out for him, so we're gonna bring it over here to the countryside, and that's where that's where we hit the
Yeah,
jackpot.
I'm gonna guess that country, and at least in this country, probably there's a little more loyalty, and it's probably a little more fad proof. Except it'll pull in people from other genres, I would think.
Yeah, yep.
Whereas rock is rock is rock. Except, Kid Rock brings in a little bit of rap and things like that. Letting Aerosmith having paved that path for him a little bit.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, no, I like that. I honestly I like the storytelling. I think the storytelling is pretty raw in some of that. And then honestly, I really got into the country guitarist because it's like it's
Yeah.
clean shredding. It's like shredding without
Yes.
distortion. It's amazing.
Yeah, even Brad Paisley's a serious guitar player, as an
Yep.
example.
Yeah.
He's like a real guitar player, and country probably doesn't get enough credit for that.
Mm-mm.
I'm not a country fan, but I could appreciate it. And I know some of those folks, they're real, and that's why I know Brad. That guy can shred,
Oh,
and he doesn't.
it's incredible.
It's not his persona though. His persona is very different. He just has the cowboy hat and all that crap, and his commercials, with what's his name, with Manning, with Peyton, which are just hysterical. Those two together.
Yeah, no, he's in fact, I've actually, one of my Telecasters is one of his signature telers
right.
that Fender put out. But yeah, he's incredible. And if you kind of dive into some of his deep cuts, he put out one instrumental album, which is phenomenal. But yeah, like him and Brent Mason is another one that's just insane. But yeah, I mean, you go back and kind of look at some of those older guys, and it just blows my mind. Yeah, the whole it's almost like a purist type of shred in the fact.
Let's go all the way back. Look at Glenn Campbell.
Yep, Glenn Campbell, Chet Atkins, like.
Yep, they were just insane. Or what's Roy's last name? Roy
Clark.
Yeah, Roy Clark. Have you ever seen some of those old videos of him?
It's ridiculous.
God. Yeah, and you're right. There's no distortion, so there's nothing to hide behind.
Yeah.
You put enough distortion on, I can almost sound good playing lead, and I don't play lead, But yeah, there, Roy Clark. There was no hiding behind that. That guy was savage.
Yeah.
The way he would play, and he didn't have the look. Sort of the long hair and the pouting face. He just looked like a nice, clean cut guy. But holy crap, that guy could play.
I know. And so he was on an old show called Hee Haw, and it's something I watch with my grandpa. And so
absolutely.
I remember watching this guy just be on there, and he's fun and goofy and whatever. And then later in life, like, I went and watched his videos, and I was like, this does not match up. Wow. Like, I never would have looked at him and thought that he could do that. Was
the Odd Couple. I don't know if you know that show. It's an older show from the late 60s, early 70s, I think. He did a guest spot. I think it was him. And you look on YouTube for Odd Couple, Roy Clark. I think it was him.
Okay.
And he does this thing, I think, on an acoustic. It's just crazy. It's absolutely crazy how good he was. So it's cool. And so for you, let's do this little segue. So here you are. Until recently, you're working at Guitar Center. You have access to not just the best of equipment and instruments, but with your nice little discount. So from an electric point of view, when you're going to play country and you want to try a little shredding in the country, I'm going to use a crazy word, milieu, which is such an obnoxious word. But if you're going to be in the country milieu, there, I could say it again. What are some of the guitars you would really enjoy playing with to get, and I think I know the answer, but to get that clean sound where you would just shred without distortion?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, obviously you got to go Telecaster.
That's what I'm thinking. Yeah.
So I've got 4 Telecasters.
Oh, wow.
By accident, now that I say that out loud, I'm like, oh, wow. So my first one, whenever we started up with the last country project I was in, which was the first one I ever played in, I was like, man, I I can't play country without a telly. And so
Yeah.
um I found somebody brought one in, and this was before I went back to working at Guitar Center for the second time. But
Yeah.
I went in,
Yeah.
looked at the wall, found a used telly that somebody had sold us or sold the store, and I bought it for $100. And
Wow.
what I did is I took it to my favorite guitar tech and had him swap out the pickups, and I can't remember if those were, I don't remember if they were Texas Special, like the teletypes. I don't remember, but did that. He kind of upgraded some of the hardware, and you probably know this, but people can be a little brand snobby. So
Right.
what I did is I took some sandpaper and scratched off Squire, and then I bought on eBay one of the Fender like custom shop emblems, and put that on there. And of course, from far away, you'll never know. And
Oh, that's funny. That's very funny.
because I'm like, I do it sometimes too, and I try really hard not to be like a gear snob, but I'm like, look, I need people to take me seriously. Not that there's anything wrong with Squires. Some
No,
of it,
I
like
get it.
that guitar, I still love it, but yeah, so that was
Squire
the
does
first.
have it has a bad connotation. I don't know why.
I don't
You know,
either.
I think it's Fender saying to the world, here's a cheap version of our guitar. And it might not be true, but yeah, I know exactly what you mean. There's almost like a stigma if you have the Squire
Exactly.
name.
Now
And we talked on this show. Yeah.
I will tell you with some of those Squires, I will those the classic vibe series. Anything that's Squire classic vibe is legit. It's almost it's like right there neck and neck with the like the Mexican made Fenders, which used to be affordable, and now those keep climbing in
Yeah.
price too. But that's a whole nother.
They have a nice rep now. They really
Yeah,
do.
they
And
really
I
do.
go
And so,
back to the days with CBS versus pre-CBS,
oh
which
wow,
yeah, because I had for many years, I had a 78 Strat, but it always bothered me that it was a CBS Strat because you had to have a pre-CBS Strat, and mine wasn't. And it was wonderful. It was a great guitar, but it wasn't
see,
pre-CBS.
brand snobbery goes back
It
decades.
does. So you've got this great Strat or this great Telly. So what do you put it through?
So I've got along with those all my tellies. So I did have a board with pedals, and I've still got a regular pedal board. I recently upgraded to a head rush, which I absolutely love. But just kind of getting down to the bare bones, I did keep some individual pedals that I can't bear to part with. You never know.
Yeah.
I always get nervous about the multi effects. I'm sure it'll last forever, but I don't ever want to be in a position where one thing goes
Yeah.
down, your whole board shot. So I've got a compression pedal, and they're all Wampler. I found out I really love Wampler pedals.
Okay.
But I've got a compression pedal, and I've got it's Brad Paisley's signature overdrive that
Okay.
Wampler did for him, and kind of just, I mean, that thing is barely dialed. And then of course I've got just a little bit of reverb. Reverb's like my security blanket because
Yeah, I get that. Right.
it doesn't matter what I'm doing. I'm like, no, click up some reverb on that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Yeah. And
so
what are
yeah,
your
that's really honestly that's as far as just your bare bones, like this is your meat and potatoes. That's really about all I need to have a solid country set.
then what about your amps and speakers? What are your preferences with those?
So I did, whenever I'm running a true pedal board, I until recently I did have a Blues Junior, and then I also again, some people are but I've got an orange. It's not a it's a solid state, and it's the 60 watt. I'm drawing a blank here. I can't remember the model. But honestly, I love that thing. The Blues Junior just kind of, it was a little it was a little thin, and so anyway, I chose between those two because with the head rush I'm just plugging directly in,
Oh,
which
gotcha.
makes
Right.
life so much easier for, like bigger venues and things like that. So
You made me think of something. Today I'm drinking beer. Usually I drink wine on the show. I think, truth be told, if someone gave me a blind taste test between a $15 bottle and a 60, they could probably trick me, right? And I wonder if you were to take like a blind taste test on a solid state versus a tube, like I have this sort of emotional attachment to tubes, right?
sure,
There's something
absolutely.
special, like we say they're warmer, right? We
Yep.
believe they're warmer. I wonder if you were to take, like right here, I've got you can't see it, but I've got my beautiful, let's see, my bootlegger. There you go. There's my bootlegger amp, which I
Ooh,
love. Yeah, that's a gorgeous amp, isn't it?
that
And it's
is
all tube.
gorgeous.
Yeah,
You have to tell me a little bit. You have to tell me a little bit more about that guy.
oh yeah, they are a friend of the show, bootlegger. Chuck Wilson has done our show. Your friend Scott Pharmacist Engel is actually an artist endorser for a bootlegger. And
Okay.
these bad boys behind me are both bootlegger guitars. And I love this. That amp is just wonderful. It's sort of like a Fender Twin-ish kind of amp, but it's just got 112 in it. But I
Gotcha.
wonder if Bootlegger built me a solid state. I wonder if I would pass the taste test if they were side by side and I had a blindfold on. I think I'd like to think I would, but or better yet, would you pass the Squire versus the non-Squire test with
Exactly.
playing? Like not even just listening. If someone blindfolded you and put a Squire telly in your hands and a non-Squire telly, both Fender, would you necessarily know the difference?
That's very true. I think the only give on that is
Yeah,
some of the lower end, well, really any lower end, like even with Epiphone to Gibson, or so you get some of that quality control.
yeah, right.
Like as far as like the frets, they're like, okay, let's just call it a day, and you've got frets that are cutting the heck out of your fingers,
Yeah, yeah,
but yeah, I mean, as far as like sound and yeah, it's hard to tell. I overheard it's just kind of a stigma everywhere, like you said. But I was in a music store the other day, and I was walking around and looking around, and one kid was playing for his friend, and they were younger, but he goes and he's like, okay, I'm gonna try another one. And the one kid's like, well, why do you need more than one guitar? Don't they all sound the same? I thought this other kid was just like he's like, no. Just
oh,
started,
that's funny.
let me show you. And so yeah, it's just, I think it's just kind of built in our DNA that, some things are better than others. But when it comes down to
Yeah,
it, who knows if we could pass that test?
I know it is crazy. So, I periodically have to look at my little iPhone, which is a clock because no one wears watches anymore. Remember the days when we used to put these things on our wrists, which we don't do anymore. So we have burned through the vast majority of our 56 or so minutes, and it
Oh
feels like
wow.
10. Yeah,
It does.
every guest we've ever had, including my dear friend Todd, who's a producer in LA, who came on the show, and he said, "Oh, we'll just go 15 minutes," and we burned through 75, I think, because it's just two people having a nice chat. So as we're wrapping up, let me ask you this: how can people find you?
So
Yeah.
I have a website, which I'm working on. Now I'm gonna have a lot more free time. But I'm working on updating. It's erindetherage.com.
D E
Um,
Detherage is how it's spelled, though, right?
yes, Detherage.
Yeah.
Yep.
Pronounced Detherage, Detherridge, right?
No, it's so first name Erin, Erin. Last name is spelled Detherage.
Ah, okay.
Mm-hmm.
So that's important. And we'll
Yep.
put your information when we air the show. And
Awesome.
on social media.
Yep. So it's Erin Deathridge Music on Facebook. And then my Instagram is at Dr. Shred 1.0.
Oh, I like that. Dr. Shred 1.0. Oh, very cool. Well, I got to tell you, this has been so much fun. And you're our first Arkansas guest.
Awesome.
Yeah, I love your state. Well, we look forward to seeing more of you in the future. And thank you so much for joining us on Guitar Tales.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
And our pleasure. And what people don't know is you and I are going to keep chatting. I'm just hitting stop on the recording now.
Yeah.
So let me put my finger up here. Let's hit stop recording. There we go.
Awesome.
Well, that was fun.
That was fun.
It was. So I'll tell you how it'll work. And my poor little pooch who just got all his hair cut off today. So I got to tend to him in a minute. He's crying outside. He is. I'll bring him in. He's a little Bermadoodle.
Oh, I got to see him.
He is pissed. he is not giving me a problem behind the what do you call it? Behind the door. But today he's a little stressed out. And he's like,
look, you cut off all my hair. You've got me behind this door.
All right, come on in, Bo. All right, buddy. Here, come on up. Come on up. There we go.
Oh, look
Good
at
boy.
him.
Yeah, he literally looked like a sheep 5 hours ago. And I let him go too long, so he was all matted. So, but what we're going to do is as soon as you and I hang up, this will then get downloaded to the Venmo site automatically. Okay. Then I forgot how I'm going to do it, but then I'll send it to our studio. They will then slap on the intro and the outro.
Okay.
And then Scott will he will premiere it on YouTube, and we're also going to set up a Facebook watch event. But I'm going to copy you on our transmittal email. So you'll see when I send it, you'll have the raw feed of this without the intro and the outro. If I have the energy tonight, you'll have it tonight. If not, you'll have it tomorrow.
Awesome. That's so cool. Thank you.
Thank you. This was really fun.
Yeah, it was such a pleasure talking to you. Like I said, I've listened to some of the other podcasts you've done, and I think it's really cool. So keep doing it as long as you can, because it's really good content.
Thank you. I really enjoy it. It's just all positive energy, which I like.
Yeah.
Same. So I'm going to let you hang up on me because my hands are full right now.
Absolutely.
But yeah, and he's going to go for a WALK in a minute.
Oh, see, then you'll be back in his favor. So
yeah, then he won't hate me anymore. All right. Well, you have a wonderful night.
You as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right. Take care. All right. Bye-bye.